See, that's why the kids have the brain damage, because they listen to the rap music.
You see?
See?
The hipping and the hopping and the bipping and the bopping, but they don't know what the rap is all about. But they do know what we're about. We're level 3.
Oh, I'm not even going to just talk. I'm just going to let you do it. That's right. Just this is level 3. How are you, Barry?
I live, I breathe. I always do.
You always with that line, man. It's just.
It's a common line. I stole it from a friend at a bookshop. It's mine now.
You stole it from someone at a bookshop.
It's mine now.
This is. I'm not even going to discuss video games. So how exactly do you steal a line from someone at a bookshop?
Because she said it every time I went in there, without fail. And I'm like, that's an interesting line. And then one day I started saying it, and it never went away.
Right.
It's gone now.
Well, on that happy note, we'll actually discuss the stuff we're going to talk about in the show. Because we've got Gears of War, Guitar Hero, because that's the same thing.
They're similar enough.
There's Warriors in that now or something. You've got Comic Jumper, which Donnie didn't seem to mind, but I thought was pretty crap.
Can't say I've touched that one myself, but I've heard good things about it. I've heard mixed things about it.
Yeah, well, whoever you heard good things from needs to be lined up and shot. And you've also done Enslaved. Now, you did like a monster review of Enslaved.
It was one worth doing a long review on.
Yeah?
It was a game I put a lot of time into from when I only had it for a couple of days, start to finish.
Well, because we got it early, which of course was, Namco was very nice for sending us a nice little
awesome booklet press kit. It rocked so much. Came with the soundtrack.
It did, and I know what you're like with your soundtrack, so...
only six songs. Full thing's 20.
God, quit your fucking bitching. Let's go to the next thing. Yeah, just that's how we'll end it.
Normally, if a writer were to insert themselves into their own story, it would come off as a tad bit, I don't know, narcissistic. Not so much with Twisted Pixel when they insert themselves into the most recent game, Comic Jumper, The Adventures of Captain Smiley. I'll explain the game first. You play as Captain Smiley, a comic book hero who basically looks like an emoticon with on steroids. Accompanied by his trusty partner Star, which is basically a talking star on his chest, the two go on exciting, dazzling comic book adventures, except for when the comic gets cancelled due to a low readership. Anyway, to save the day, along comes Twisted Pixel, who employ Captain Smiley and Star to go make cameo appearances in other comic books of various other genres to try and boost their readership levels. The fact that Twisted Pixel managed to insert themselves into their own game to break the fourth wall so blatantly, it kind of sets the tone for what is ultimately a rather weird, wacky game.
Cut, reset and start over.
I didn't think it was so bad. I mean,
it was horrible. It was all wrong.
The muscles look pretty good.
Oh my God! Someone get me something to drink!
I'll get to the tone in a bit, but first off, as we want to do on level 3, the graphics. Now, like I said before, Captain Smiley has to jump through many different genres. In this game, he jumps into modern age comics, fantasy comics, mangas, and silver age comics. 4 completely different genres with 4 completely disparate art styles. Twisted Pixel managed to pull off each of these art styles rather well. They all look like they should. The Silver Age stages, for instance, has all that sort of washed out colors, really black borders, looks like a cel-shaded thing, for instance. The mangas, it's all black and white. You even move from the right to the left of the screen. It's all rather faithful to the respective genres, or at least as faithful as you can for what is ultimately a piss take of all these things. I should also mention whilst I'm here, the FMVs. Twisted Pixel explored the full motion video concept in the last game, Explosion Man, how they go full hog with it in Comic Jumper. In that, well, there's full motion video at the top of the tail of the game, but there's also this one thing where if you need to get rid of all the enemies on one screen, you can call on the employees of Twisted Pixel to help eliminate them all. Which calls on a full motion video sequence of just hands, fists, feet, and eventually a bearded dude who headbutts the screen to eliminate all the enemies. It looks kind of wacky, it looks kind of charming. Overall, graphics about, I don't know, an 8 out of 10.
I'm your worst nightmare.
You're the worst actor.
Has someone said that before?
And now for the audio, or more specifically the writing. Since this is the first Twisted Pixel game to have a full script running through the whole thing, and I have to say, it's a really good attempt. Their particular brand of off-kilter humor is really communicated through this script. What am I trying to say? Oh yes, the game is funny. You have your occasional sections of really broad, kind of laughy humor. For instance, during the manga sections, one of the levels you're exploring the Japanese high school called Hence High, and their mascot is, as you'd expect, the tentacles. But it kind of works though. So does some of the other humor, the rest of the game, which is at times cutting, at times witty, and throughout the entire time, at least entertaining. There's a lot of fourth wall shattering throughout this whole game, and the game is very quick to remind you of that particular fact. So overall, it's a great script, which is augmented by some great voice acting from all involved as well. And then there's the original songs. In their last game, Twisted Pixel had Everybody Loves Donuts, which was a great song for Explosion Man. I still use it as my ringtone. Anyway, they continue with this trend, and there are no less than 3 original songs in Comic Jumper, the best of which is the Stats song, which is, it's no Everybody Loves Donuts, but it's a damn jaunty ditty, especially, it really makes the Stats screen all the more exciting and all the more tranquil and relaxing and ukulele-like. So overall, the audio, a 9 out of 10.
Just do it.
Oh, sorry, hand slipped.
This isn't bad.
Ow, there it goes again. Whoa.
I'm not kidding.
How'd that happen?
I will bite your chin.
So yes, this game has great audio, great humor, great graphics. You think that the gameplay would be just as good, don't ya? Don't ya? No, it isn't. The best thing I could say about Comic Jumper's gameplay is that it's ambitious. It incorporates about 3 or 4 different styles of gameplay, whether you have your standard side-scrolling brawler to a side-scrolling shooter, kind of like last year's Shadow Complex, where you use the right stick to aim and the triggers to shoot. But occasionally you also have these on-rail shooter segments, kind of like Sin and Punishment or Panzer Dragoon. So yeah, you can't exactly accuse the game mechanics of being repetitious. The level design, on the other hand, they are tedious. They drag on for too long. I spent at least 2 levels in this game. I spent at least half an hour on them, and this wasn't even an entertaining half an hour either. It was just doing more of the same, just slogging through the enemies wave after wave after wave. It was tedious after a while. This is compounded by the punishing difficulty in this game, and that is compounded by the checkpoints, which are few and far between. And before you complain about how I don't like this game because I suck at it, let me bring up Twisted Pixel's last game, Explosion Man, which managed to balance this accessibility and this challenging experience really, really well. Getting through that game's levels was rewarding. Getting through Comic Jumper's levels is grindy. Speaking of which, there is a bit of a grindy aspect to this game. As you progress through the levels, you'll be earning money, which you can then spend on various things, such as unlocking behind-the-scenes videos, concept art, and even 2 levels to Explosion Man. But you can also use your money to upgrade your Captain Smiley character. But here's the thing. I was upgrading him, yet I didn't feel like I was doing anything at all. Enemies were still taking far too long to die. It may have just been me, but I always felt like I was 1 upgrade behind where I should have been. So yeah, it's unfortunate that the gameplay can't exactly match the highs set by the rest of the game. It's a 6 out of 10.
Hey kids, if you're looking to play with a real hero, play with me.
Whoa!
Actually, I just realized what I said there.
I think you're gonna have to register in this
You
neighborhood.
can edit that in post, right?
So yeah, the gameplay is kind of off, but I reckon it's kind of worth slogging through to experience the rest of the game. The quality writing, the humor, the graphics, the differing and impressive art styles. It's worth going through all that, the 4 hours worth of gameplay to experience the last hour of everything that is in the game, which is great. So overall, I would have to give Comic Jumper: The Adventures of Captain Smiley a 7 out of 10. It's a great game, entertaining, funny, except for the part where you have to play it. Although this kind of demonstrates 2 things. One, that Twisted Pixel can do great writing, and it reinforces the fact that they can do great full motion videos. So is it just me, or I kind of want the next Twisted Pixel game to be a full motion video game? I know you can do it, Twisted Pixel. I believe in you.
Did you hear? I heard a mouth noise. It might have been my stomach noise. I didn't eat much of a lunch.
Where are you?
Hey, hold on.
We have an emergency. We need you back at the base right now.
Well, as you can tell, by built food,
Bloody
I've got things to do.
freaking
It was
dog.
totally fun. I love you and you.
You just shot someone!
That's not telling me. I'll come by and pick up the check next week if that's cool.
Now, anybody who's my age and grew up watching any kind of semblance of television would know the show Monkey. It was on Australian television for a long time. It was a story of 4 people, Monkey, Tripitaka, Pigsy and Sandy, and their travel to get some scriptures, effectively, or deliver them. Enslaved Odyssey to the West is a very simple but strong play on this. Once again, you do have the characters Monkey, Trip, and Pigsy traveling to the West for their own reasons. Is it a journey like the one on television though that's really worth traveling?
What is this place? And what are we doing here?
This was my home. Slavers came, destroyed everything.
Now, obviously as it's based on Journey to the West, the story of Enslaved is kind of similar, yet it's been given a post-apocalyptic refresh of a sort. You play Monkey, someone who comes out of a steel egg as compared to an egg on a mountaintop, just coming down a slave ship. He encounters Tripitaka, who's known to as Trip for the rest of the series, who's a bit more of a technologically advanced person compared to the old priestess kind of style of character. She effectively enslaves or puts a slave headband, thus the headband concept, on Monkey and forces them to travel to the West to deliver her home. They encounter other characters like Pigsy along the way, of course. It's a very well thought out story, and the reboot for the story does it justice because it's simply presented so well. But I'll get onto that later on. More importantly, the scores are the things we should be talking about. Graphically, to start off with, Enslaved is extremely impressive. The level design is very vast. You'll find a lot of really good camera usage. The fixed cameras do work well for it to show exactly what they've done with the levels, and it shows a lot of care has been put into the levels, especially as there's many instances, probably one at least every 10 minutes, where there's a massive landscaping shot and you can see exactly how much thought's been put into it. The game doesn't run at 60 frames per second, and everyone knows I always complain about that, but I feel with Enslaved it actually works really well. If it ran at 60, it would have kind of taken away from the feeling, because it kind of feels almost ancient in its approach, which is done well because it's set in post-apocalyptic America, but post-apocalyptic anyway. So everything is very runic in its approach. Character design is also very true to original characters. Monkey's kind of a bit of a burly man, kind of lurches over a little bit. Pigsy's, of course, fat slob, snout, he's got a mechanical ear, and Trip is your usual kind of just standard female character. The character design's been thought out well. The monster design has also been thought out quite well. It's all robots and stuff, but it does work well. They look very nice. They look like they've had something that's had a lot of effort put into them. Graphically, you can't really fault the game at all. I've encountered a few glitches with the graphic, occasional popping, the occasional unrealistic jumping, but otherwise the game is really fine in graphics. It's a 9 out of 10 in graphics, one of the best ones that's come out this year. Now, anybody that watched Monkey back in the day would remember the horrible yet brilliant voice acting in it. Enslaved is brilliant yet brilliant voice acting, so it's certainly a little bit different. Andy Serkis does portray a very good job. The character interaction is very solid. They do talk to each other and develop a bond throughout the course of the game, and just through the voices alone, you can really tell that. Monsters, they do kind of make the whole robotic-y kind of sound. They do play their side well. Ambience is also very well used. There are certain sections where it's a bit louder than others. However, it tends to be overbearing at times, and it can also glitch out and lay a few layers on top of itself. As a result, it sounds way over the top. In contrast, the music is also used very, very well. It's not used often, not as rare as, say, something like Demon's Souls, but still used in a lack of frequency, but it does it well. When you do hear it, you know it's important, and it does add to the immersion of the experience instead of take away from it. Sound effects are also very, very meaty. Monkey does have a staff, and you do have that solid clonking sound when you do hit someone, as well as the slow-mos when you kill last enemies, and you can see the whole grunt on his face when he does hit someone. It does show that it's a solid fight and it's more of a struggle. The sound really does complement this. It's an 8 out of 10 only for the sheer glitching of the ambience, really, and the occasional flat voice acting between two characters. It does it justice because it is a struggle, as said. It's not like everyone's going to be, ooh, happy, happy. It's great. It's meant to be a struggle. And the character interaction does show this. Occasionally they kind of lose the plot, but not very often at all. Certainly not enough to ruin it.
If you die, I die. I ain't gonna let that happen. We don't have much time.
Now, Enslaved may well have great graphics and a brilliant sound and a brilliant story as well, but without the gameplay, it's going to fall lackluster. Luckily, the gameplay is absolutely wonderful. It is an action game, and it does display that quite well. It is a platformer, so you do spend a lot of time from jumping to ledge to ledge to ledge. This is where the fixed cameras come in play, because it really does show the level design behind it. It contributes to the story. The game is done well, and it really does portray, as I said earlier, through the gameplay, that it is a quest to survive, not a happy fun quest time. The gameplay does show and it contributes to the story, which the gameplay ultimately should. It's got a really great pace behind it. It does have the occasional lull level where you don't do very much, but any good action game needs that. It needs that to remind you that the game has been awesome otherwise, and they're well placed. You have a lot of action and a lot of fun, and the game kind of drags down a little bit, just a little bit of walking, but it gets straight back into the fun again after that, and you're reminded it's really, really good. The combat is a bit meaty. It doesn't really do much event favor, just hit people with a stick. It's kind of left simple, but they've kind of gone to explaining more of the platformer and the story approach, where the combat's more tacked on instead of a part of it, so it's really not that bad. The stealth factor behind it's nice as well, because you do have the option of sneaking past a lot of the robots, not actually fighting them at all. It does require a lot of thought to figure those out. There are puzzles in the game too, and the puzzles aren't too challenging. I mean, if I can figure them out, anyone can. And it does take a bit of thought, but it's something that kind of changes the game up a little bit instead of just walk beat, walk beat, walk beat, not too much else to it. It does have an upgrade system. The upgrade system is very basic. Basically, you can upgrade, your staff, because there's also a gun, your health, your shield. Not too much to it, but it's there. The most important part of the gameplay is Trip, the person you're accompanying. It is an escort game as well, ultimately. You do have to escort her from point A to point B. It's not too much but that. But the way you can use Trip as a character and her functions is very solid. There is the decoy function, so you can actually shine a light and run past it. You do need her to jump up ledges to flick switches for you. It really is, in a sense, an offline co-op game between you and the AI, and it does work really well, and it's certainly a reminder that you need to keep an eye on her at all times. If you leave her alone, she's going to die. If you go too far away, you get killed automatically anyway. Not too much else to it though. The boss challenges are a bit lacking. They're kind of samey and a bit easy to do once you figure out. Not nearly as grand as like a God of War action sequence or a Dante's Inferno action sequence, but it doesn't really need to be. So that's okay. Gameplay once again is an 8. It has a lot of fun and really very engaging. It's the occasional glitch and hiccup and the little bit too low at times kind of detracts from it. It's not perfect, but it's certainly high up there.
Why did the mechs try to kill us?
They were built only for combat. And when the war ended, nobody told them.
In the grand scheme of things, Enslaved does show that Odyssey to the West, or the Journey to the West, can be portrayed in many ways. Monkeys got fraction demons and come back and you're a demon, while Enslaved has a quest for survival against very, very overwhelming odds. Ultimately, the game is worthy of a 9 out of 10 for a variety of reasons. It has got solid gameplay, as said. The audio is used well. Graphically, it's very appealing, but most importantly, it tells a story. And it tells a very good story with no real major holes. Something that a game hasn't done in a really long time. It's definitely worth looking at if for the story alone, if you're into that kind of thing. Otherwise, as I said, everything else, it really is engaging about it. There's not much that takes it from a 10. It's got very, very few things wrong about it. Definitely worth looking at, as I said, if for the story alone. It's a journey everyone should be traveling. It is on PS3 and 360, so that can be done. Unless you're a Wii owner.
Do you hear that? That sound, the strumming of the plastic guitars, the beating of the rubber pads, the really off-key singing, the poorly timed rapping, the constant flickering of the crossfader bar. This, folks, is the start of Rhythm Game Season 2010. And I'm here to kick this season off with a review of Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Nintendo Wii. Warriors of Rock tries to go back to sort of the roots of Guitar Hero, the whole kind of, rah, metal, metal. And to be honest, it just falls completely flat on its face. I mean, I don't know if it's just the way that the game looks to try the whole kind of, hey, it's a story about this dude, this god of rock, and he's fighting this massive beast of rock. It just comes across as really kind of forced and just bland as all hell. Hell, even let's go. To be fair, let's kind of go into the sort of two big things about the game. First off, it tries to have kind of a story mode called Quest Mode, which is more or less just a fancy way of saying career mode, because if you look at the game, it has characters which you could kind of constitute as being just tiers, and really it just comes across as being like just a fancy way of saying, career mode. It tries to have a story, but there's like no story whatsoever. Just saying. And then there's the other big thing in the form of rock powers. Now, each character has sort of a rock power associated with, like, for instance, one character has the ability to gain pretty much a full star power bar after hitting like one full star phrase. It's a really useful idea. Just the problem is that it just kind of comes across as its own kind of, separate kind of mode. Honestly, if you're only playing quest mode or just this one specific challenge, it's not there. It just comes across as like, hey, it's another mode you can play, but it's really not something you can kind of do. It just feels kind of like, just a kind of a pointless addition, But aside from that, we'll get to just why. In fact, that's just what Guitar Warriors Rock is just all about. Kind of pointless additions that don't really add much to the game experience. It really just feel like, hey guys, we're trying to innovate here, but we'll get to that more in a moment. But for now, let's talk scores. Visually, Guitar Warriors Rock actually isn't that bad. It tries to go, it kind of retains sort of the same visual style that Guitar Hero 5 and in that respect Band Hero try to retain, where it has, you know, really awesome fluid animation, kind of interesting use of motion blur, and to be fair, it still looks really quite good. In fact, even the animations for songs like Bohemian Rhapsody, it's worth the price of admission alone. It's really freaking awesome. I love the way how they kind of refer to things like, you know, bobbing your head, you know, like in Wayne's World. The fact that they try to frame stuff like in the actual music video, really cool stuff. Yet at the same time, again, it's the visual design of the game that actually just really kind of falls flat to me. I mean, just the way everyone looks, the way everything kind of just is. I don't know, I just really do not like that look. It just looks ugly and kind of generic. I don't know, but otherwise, it generally looks fine otherwise. So in that regard, 7 out of 10. Sound-wise, again, it's actually quite good. I mean, there's about 93 songs on the actual soundtrack, and generally tries to go for a much more focused vibe than what Guitar Hero 5 was going for. Yet at the same time, it just doesn't come across as well as I would have liked. I don't know, it's really kind of hard for me to kind of explain this. I mean, sure, you've got some great bands like, you know, the Vines, you've got Creedence, you've got Queen, all this great stuff on there, but just the songs they pick from some of these guys, like, it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. I mean, it just feels like kind of, you know, hey guys, you know, here's some metal that, again, just feels kind of forced, kind of tacked on. I mean, you look at games like you look at games like Guitar Hero Metallica, which effectively is what Neversoft kind of tried to do, and it did really well because that soundtrack was just freaking awesome. I mean, had a great Metallica selection, and also great representation from just all these other bands. Here, it just comes across as kind of, well, just forced. I don't know. It's really not other way I can state it. But otherwise, though, it's generally a decent. Again, it's generally just a decent enough soundtrack, but it's not going to be for everyone. So, otherwise, again, 7 out of 10. The story itself. And now we come to the gameplay, which really there isn't much I can say about it. It's Guitar Hero. You've played this game before. You played it 4 or 5 times last year. You played it a couple of times the year before that. It's not much more I can say about it. Though to be fair, though, there is one really cool addition here I want to talk about in the form of Quick Play Plus. Now, effectively, it's kind of combining the challenges in the career mode of Guitar Hero 5, mixed in with, you know, just your standard Quick Play mode. So effectively now, all the songs you have, which is more or less, you know, every song you have in your Guitar Hero history, can pretty much be played with all these challenges. So you're always constantly being rewarded for playing through songs, which is great because there are some really awesome rewards here. For instance, one of the early ones you get is actually the collection of old Neversoft logos from previous Tony Hawk games. Really, really awesome stuff. But that being said, though, these challenges just kind of seem off as being generic. Let me explain. In Guitar Hero 5, you had pretty much one challenge dedicated to a song, and that challenge was actually pretty unique to that song. Here, you got a whole bunch of challenges for those songs. It's just generic as all hell. Like for instance, like, you know, earn a certain score, hit a certain streak, hit a certain amount of hopos. That's it. That really is it. And to be honest, though, I mean, it's a cool idea, but I would have liked a bit more variety in the challenges because otherwise, there really isn't much else here. I mean, you've played this game before, like I've been saying. I mean, the star power stuff, the rock power stuff, you know, it's there. It's a neat idea, but it doesn't really add much to gameplay. Quest mode, it's just career mode. Really, there isn't much I can say here. But otherwise, I mean, it works. It's a very functional game, but at the same time, you know, there isn't really anything new or exciting here like in Guitar Hero 5. That being said, though, I'd have to give it overall a 7 out of 10.
So you really liked Enslaved, didn't you?
That's a great game. Totally. A Demon Pop out of 10. Can't go wrong. Cannot go wrong.
We are off the air now.
I would have just reviewed Monkey if I could.
Well, the old man would have put more clips in if he could have. So
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, next time we'll just run like an episode of Monkey.
It's out in Australia on DVD.
Yeah. Well, this is, that'd be good publicity for whoever releases it. So, and if you'd like more publicity, please send us games early because we'll play your games a lot and stuff.
And then reference them to other things that they are like.
Yeah,
like
well,
Monkey.
They are similar
with fractions and everything.
Well, are you and your fraction demon? Do you want to tell the kids? No, don't tell the kids at home about your fraction.
It's in the review.
That's true. Well, I'll tell you what, wrapping up another show. Always good of you to join me, Barry. All the kids left me, so we had to, you've stepped in at the last second. You've done a great job.
Last minute tagging with the chair.
That's what she said. Woo.
I couldn't lift it though, but...
Civ 5 last week for the contest. That's it. I'm sick of it. Next week we're giving it away.
Yeah, enter.
The 4 ways to win, which is the best? Domination, technical, cultural, or diplomatic, I think. Which is best? Tell me why. You'll get a copy and a t-shirt and
something.
Cool story, bro.
Be creative about it.
Yeah?
As long as it's one of those 4. Make us laugh.
So be creative, but inside of these limitations.
Yeah.
Well, we're all, at level 3 here. We're all about oxymorons. It's great. But yeah. Well, all right. On that note, thank you again, Barry, for joining.
Always
me.
happy to be here.
Well, don't forget to check out the stream. Make sure you're looking at our streams. It's a lot of fun. Our Parmacast, as we like to call
Parmacast is good.
them.
It's taken off.
And,
haven't eaten
honestly,
Parma on there. We have eaten chicken though. So.
Well, Parma's on the way. Trust me.
Oh, sweet.
We'll save it up. We'll save it up.
Totally making more of these Parmacasts.
But you know what? Let's get out of here.
Gotta go.
Flying Nimbus! Oh, wait, wrong one. Oh, breaking shit. God!
Clouds are killing us.
Billy, no!